Okay, my cell phone says it's 7:01 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. This is the Thursday, May 19th, regular meeting. And the record will show that 5 of us are here in person. It looks like Rob Woods is on the Zoom. Okay. So all 6 of us are here. So move on to approval of minutes. We'll start with April 19, Board of Finance meeting. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Steve's got the motion,
I'll second.
and Larry's got the second. Any discussion on those minutes? This is the April 19 Board of Finance meeting. Any discussion? Any changes to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Normally I would say this one carries unanimously. I notice Rob Woods is muted, so just for technical purposes, I guess we'll say this one carries 5-0, and if there is.
Yeah, my vote is Aaron.
Okay, you vote yes?
That's
Thank you. All right. That you're breaking up, but it sounds to me like, and I imagine everybody here sounds like you're voting yes. So that's 6-0. Okay, we'll move on to the.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
The audio quality is very poor.
Really?
I'm not
Really?
quite sure why.
Is my audio quality poor?
Yes, sir. Yours is very poor.
Oh, really? Because you're in the room, it sounds like,
How about now?
can you hear this? Okay. Dottie, can you hear this? Okay.
That seems slightly better. Thank you.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, well, then I'll keep going.
Yeah, right.
So the next is May 16 Board of Finance special meeting. That's the one where we must have just met for a few moments. Go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to approve those minutes.
Steve
I'll make a
has,
motion to approve those minutes.
Steve has the motion. Is there a second?
Rob Mann, I'll second.
Rob Mann has a second. Any changes to those minutes? Any changes? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes signify as they presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? And Rob Wurch, if you're there, I know you were kind of breaking up, so.
vote.
No worries.
Sorry for the,
It sounded like a yep, but.
He's still muted still.
That's okay. If at any point, Rob, you're able to unmute and just shout out yes. We'll know what you're talking about. Even if we're a few items from now, we'll know what you mean. So for now, we'll say 5-0. So move on to correspondence.
He's out
Text collector,
completely.
was that? Okay. Move on to correspondence, tax collector, reading more in 10 months update 21 to 22 as of April 30th. I believe we all saw that one that came by email. Any other, and then I know that we received correspondence from the Board of Education having to do with a request that's on the agenda tonight. We'll cover that later. Any other correspondence that came in that's not captured here? Any other correspondence? Okay. Move on to citizens' comments. Any citizen who has a comment at this time, we'll start with citizens in the room. Any citizen in the room who has a comment at this time? Any citizen on Zoom who has a comment at this time? Any comments? Any comments? Citizens' comments? All right. Sounds pretty quiet to me. I think it's safe to move on. So move on to Selectmen's update for Selectman Amy Sanders. Welcome, Amy.
Good evening. Hoping the Zoom audience can hear me. All right, so to begin, yay, the budget passed. Very excited, great work the Board of Finance, I give kudos to you guys for putting together a really awesome budget. So proud of the work that you guys did. Upcoming this coming Thursday or a week from today, 10 a.m. here in the Merrill Sine room, there is a property tax sale that's going on. Rainey has been able to collect quite a bit of prior year's taxes where people have caught up, but there are still a few properties that are up for tax sale. So that's something you should note or know about. A few weeks back, I think it was April 18th, the building official and fire marshal, state police, Northeast District Department of Health were forced to condemn a local building. This left 8 residents displaced that had no place to go. So just so that the board knows, we were obligated to find them temporary housing. They initially started at the Comfort Inn in Dayville, eventually moved to America's Best Value Inn in Putnam, the former King's Inn. And we have found some permanent residents or permanent homes or permanent places for them to stay. But there are still a couple displaced people, but we have hit our maximum that we could pay out. So there was a total of $9,500 that we had to pay out for their housing. In addition, we had to board up the condemned building because the owner lives in New York City and people were actually entering the building and living there where they shouldn't have. So we've shut the power, we shut the water off, and we boarded the building up. In the meantime, potentially the owner of that property would like to sell quickly. So I am working very quickly to put a lien on the property so that we can recoup that $9,500. So I'm working with the attorneys currently on that so that we can get the lien in place within the next week or so, is the hope. So I wanted to at least make you aware of that. And that's one of the cases I know we had reduced, or I think we had eliminated the building in the building office fund. There was that $5,000 line. This is the 9,500 currently is going to get pulled out of that line item because it was a building official, order. And hopefully we recoup that. So just to give you that heads up, next year, there might be an overage in that line item. Sidewalk, the Route 12 sidewalk project that we've been talking about, we had received that $2 million grant. It is hopefully finally coming to fruition. We did award the grant. We only had one bidder, and that kind of speaks to the construction industry currently. There's just too many jobs and not enough construction companies, not enough workers. We had one bid. Thank goodness it was a viable bid. Freeman Engineers reviewed the bid and it did qualify. It also came under their original in their original estimate for the cost of the sidewalk project. So now we again wait for the state of Connecticut to give us the final approval so that this company can start doing work. They're eager to begin. They had another project that is delayed. They could technically start on Monday. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to notify all of the residents from Route 200 to Rawson Ave to let them know that, hey, this construction project is going to be beginning in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be starting to do that and notify those residents in the coming week. But again, hopefully the state of Connecticut will move a little fast on this so that we can get this project underway. There are no bites on the Public Works Director. Again, it's a sign of the times. Salaries are high. And there are several towns, including Woodstock, that are searching for a Public Works Director right now. And our salary is probably the lowest. So that's going to make it a challenge. It's also a very difficult job. People are getting jobs elsewhere, making the same, if not more money with less responsibility. So it is going to be a challenge, but we haven't given up. We're finding some new sites that we can post the position on, but we literally haven't had a single bite on the job. We also have a maintainer position. One of our maintainers, Matt Whipple, has taken a job with Connecticut DOT. So that's going to leave us again short-staffed in the Public Works Department for a little while. We're posting that job. I believe Michelle's on, but I think we're posting it today or tomorrow. So Matt's last day is going to be June 2nd. So he'll be missed. He's at the transfer station. So if you go to the transfer station, you see his happy disposition most of the time. So let's see, Putnam EMS, we are a full month into using them. We're currently under a temporary contract with them. We've completed a full month. I did get some data from QV Dispatch. There were a total of 70 incidents in Thompson. There were also 18 incidences in the Putnam area that the Thompson EMS crew responded to because Putnam EMS was out on another call. This is the situation that we've been hoping would happen, where Putnam would back up Thompson if they were out at a call, Thompson would back up Putnam if they were at a call, and that would maximize the profit in keeping it within Putnam and Thompson. There has been some issues with staffing. There were 3 days where calls weren't answered so they had to call mutual aid. So it did eventually get answered, but calls weren't answered because Thompson didn't have a crew, and in one incident, Putnam didn't have a crew. Again, it's a staffing thing. There was a small COVID outbreak within the departments. So there were 3 responses that they weren't able to make in the last month. But that in total is 1.4% of total call volume. So I still see it, even though there's a challenge right now with hiring. Obviously, it's sort of industry and nationwide, the hiring issue, and it's been tough for EMTs and finding good EMTs. So it's not uncommon, but we're working hard to overcome that. We currently have, we've enlisted Jamie Sine's daughter. She's in college for marketing. So she's working on some postcard. We're going to do a mass mailing to all new EMTs within Connecticut to try to recruit some EMTs up this way. So we're going to be doing that within the next week or two. And hopefully we'll be able to get a full-time crew of 8 people here in Thompson within the next month or so. Our target is to have them in place before July 1. So we're definitely going to be pushing hard to make that happen. The last thing I wanted to share with you, and you're probably wondering and looking for that budget book. So as you know, we had switched over to ClearGov, which is an all online platform. We could not start the digital budget book process until we finalized the budget. So I know, Bill, I'll be sending you, I forgot to send it to you today. There's a training module. Bill's going to go through it. I'm going to go through it. We're going to collaborate together. It has to be built. It's not simply plug and play. So all those little things quirky things that we didn't like about the way ClearGov was, we're going to be able to eliminate those things and create a nice digital budget book that can be shared via the website, and additionally make some hard copies from it. But there's lots of data that we need to put in regarding the town, the history of the town. There's lots of different things we can do with it. So we're hoping, in my mind, I'm hoping to have it ready in a month. But excited to, once it's in place, once we have the template finished, we'll be able to use it year after year with just some simple modifications. So, but this initial budget book has to be created. So just figured I'd give you that update. So everybody's wondering where their budget book is. So hopefully by July 1. And that's all I have.
Thank you. While you were sharing your update, Rob Word texted me. He said, "I'm hearing everything, even though you can't hear me. I voted yes on both motions on minutes." So, Dottie, if you can just reflect that Rob Word voted yes on both motions for the minutes. So, any questions for the first selectman? Any question? Go ahead.
My only question was, because you had said that some of the calls were unresponded. Who was the mutual aid?
Typically Woodstock is the one that's, and I will complete transparency. There was a hiccup with Putnam EMS and QV Dispatch. They're not being good communication. So I have addressed that with the administrator for Putnam EMS, that they have to be very clear that if for some reason there's no crew in Thompson, that QV has to know immediately that either Putnam gets dispatched or Woodstock gets dispatched, so that they avoid those calls. So that rather than toning out 3 times and then realizing there's no Thompson crew, they need to absolutely know from go that there's no crew
Yeah,
there.
I only asked. I want
Yeah.
people to assume that somebody's not responding.
No,
That's all I wanted.
definitely.
That's why I asked.
I think in those 3 cases, it was Woodstock, but I could double check for you, of course.
Any other questions?
Aaron, it's Rob. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
I think it would be great if Amy could update the board on the news around the ambulances. We sold one and we have two left, and I thought that that would be something that the board would be pleased to hear.
Yeah, so we ended up in the contract. They initially were offering 80,000 for one of the newest ambulance. We were able to bring that up to 100,000. So that offset our budget or our payment requirement for this coming fiscal year.
Anything else? Questions? Comments?
One question, I guess, is that 100,000 spread out like it was before?
It is,
Okay, that's
it's
all.
still,
That's
yeah, over 5 years.
all. Fine. Thank you.
Anything else? Anything? All right, thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We move on to school district update, superintendent of schools, Melinda Smith. Welcome, Melinda.
Good evening.
It should be.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, the Board of Education for passage of the budget on the first time. I think the collaborative effort between all three boards was amazing. I've been here 5 years, finishing up my 5th year, and it's only passed on the first go around twice. So I think we're on a good path. So thank you. Currently in Thompson Public Schools, there are 920 students. We are down 7 from last month. We have 412 students at Mary R. Fisher, which is a reduction of 5, 292 students at the middle school, which is a reduction of 1, and 216 students, which is a reduction of 1. 4 of those students moved to Florida. 1 went to homeschooling, 1 discontinued school altogether, and 1 moved to an out of placement, which is Bradley Hospital, which Bradley program, which is on site. We did have 2 students register, 1 a brand new registration and another a returning homeschool student. So we currently have 29 outplaced students, and when we developed the budget, we had 25, just to put that in somewhat of a perspective. We do have COVID cases increasing on campus. We're handling those on individual cases. We have had some bad news capital-wise. Obviously, we're going to discuss the boilers this evening. And then we've had some bad news about the playground at Mary R. Fisher. We've had to close that down. We had our insurance company, Travelers, come in and assess the playground. And it needs at the very least $50,000 worth of repair plus some surfacing. So around $55,000 to allow us to reopen it, to rebuild a new playground and a new site. Is in excess of $107,000. The Board of Ed has had a discussion preliminarily, but they haven't gotten the hard numbers from Bill Birch yet. Probably look at that in June. Obviously, the budget can't support fixing the playground, so we're on hold right now as to what we're going to do about that. But I wanted you to be aware that it's currently shut down. We opened bids this week for an HVAC assessment. If you recall, we used some of ESSER2 and some of our ARC funds together and have $92,000 budget to have that assessment done. That's being turned over to the building committee, and then they'll respond and select one of those companies. We've just finished our full exams of our students in the Vision to Learn program. Well over 200 students have had full eye exams campus-wide, and the students have selected their new glasses. The high school students received their glasses, and the middle and the elementary are due to receive their glasses before the end of school, and that was all grant funded. So you can imagine we've eliminated a barrier to learning by making sure everybody can see. So we're very excited about that. We're working with Tierra Penn on the 11th Village. Our transition program is going to work to open up a little used bookstore and record shop in one of the little villages there starting in October of next year. So we're pretty excited about that. And then, of course, it's all about concerts, end of the year activities, and graduation, which you are all invited to. It's on Friday, June 10th. Thank you.
Questions for the superintendent?
Quick question on the site program. Is that because we're a particular thing about Thompson, or is it statewide, or
So this
Do you know?
was an opportunity that was offered to Alliance districts
Alliance
initially.
District? Okay.
And this organization seeks, it's a foundation, so people give donations. So we had to come up with about $20,000 to participate in the program, but it's costs a lot more than that. The foundation is paying for the rest of it. And then every 2 years, the idea is that they would come in and they would give full eye exams to the students. So, and then on the off year, we have the Rotary come in and they do the off year. So everybody has to by state law get a vision exam every year,
Oh, okay.
especially the elementary. We were surprised how many students at the high school either had lost or broken their glasses, or their families couldn't afford to replace them, or actually needed glasses. So we were excited that they went home with all their new glasses first. We had the most number of students at the high school that needed vision exams.
Oh, thank you.
Just two questions regarding the playground. Which playground is being,
It's the
And then-
intermediate playground at Marriott Fisher. It's near, give me a spot though.
Like across from the garage.
okay.
The old,
the old playground.
the Little Tykes playground, the classic,
Across from the garage,
correct.
okay. The other question is, when were you aware that this was condemned?
Let's see, so I want to say it was about 2 weeks ago, we had travelers come out and do an inspection on it. Basically what they found is that due to its age, there are new mandates, there are new standards that it just doesn't meet. Mostly has to do with either pinch points where you can get your fingers pinched, or really the biggest thing is entanglement areas where they said that's the biggest number of claims is from the drawstrings on hoodies that get wrapped around a nut or a bolt or something.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Melinda, did you say that graduation is June 10th?
Friday, June 10th.
Okay, and what time does it start?
I believe it starts at 6. I think we have to be there at 5, yeah.
Okay,
But and then a formal invitation will be sent to the board of finance members.
wonderful, thank you.
It is 6 o'clock before it starts.
New Hampshire.
All I know is I have to be here at 5.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Any other questions? Go ahead, Rob.
Just a comment. I think that the vision thing is great. I'm sure that these students are on tablets a lot more than ever. And I know that, staring at a screen all, for, I won't say hours on end, but I mean, it's the same brightness, the same, it's different than different forms of paper and different forms of ink. It must have an effect on the vision, with time.
I noticed that a lot of the teachers have complained about the vision being a bit impaired since they've spent so much time on the screen when we were in shutdown. So you're right. And we've seen articles about it, and we're happy that we're able to address one barrier to learning.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. We'll move on to Finance Department report. Welcome, Bill.
Thanks.
I think this is your first official report?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Last month's report sort of got lost in the joy of moving to referendum with the budget.
Sure. Sure.
Thanks. So the report for the month of April on the revenue side, property taxes are going along very well. 100.1% of budget. Current tax collections on track. Collections of prior year taxes, interest and liens, and motor vehicle supplement ahead of schedule, actually. So it's great news to see for me. State and federal grants received in April. We actually received the last payment of the year on the education equalization grant, which brings us right up to budget on that one. That is on track. Something I learned this month, that those funds are received 25% in the first quarter, 25% in the second quarter, and then we get the whole thing usually in April. Although I think last year, looking at the numbers, it might have happened in March. But it was right on time this year. 2 additional small grants, the telephone access line tax grant of $11,000 and a small state of Connecticut miscellaneous grant of $1,200. Local revenues also right on track. 97% of budget, up significantly from the prior year, driven by increased conveyance taxes, miscellaneous income, $20,000 more this year from the Turtle Lot Fund. And just to remind everybody, because and Rob, this was probably you probably noted this, that other sources of revenue include the loan refinance proceeds, which is probably a little bit different from what we're normally seeing in generally accepted accounting principles now that I've put everybody to sleep. On the expense side, at this point, expenses committed are 14.6 million year to date, but once again, that includes the payoff on refinance. So when you remove those numbers, you're looking at $7.4 million, which is 90% of budget, leaving us $789K below budget for the full year. One notable expense that I'm actually looking into, town council expenses are about $34,000 over budget, due to increased use of the town attorney for P&Z and employee-related matters. Our cash position is up nicely, 2.4 million from last month and 1.3 million from this time last year. Any questions?
Just one question, Bill, and that is with regard to the ambulance. What is the setback for us in terms of funding the ambulance over and above what we had budgeted?
I don't have that right now, Mr. Johnson, but I'll look it up and get it to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this juncture? If you're going to share anything else, go ahead, or if you're all set. All right, so then, any questions for the finance? Turtle Lot Fund update, Board of Trustees. I don't know if there's anyone here who can speak to that. If so, that's great. If not, no worries.
Aaron, I could speak. Oh, go ahead, Melinda. Melinda was going to jump in. Maybe we'll do it together. We'll tag team it. I was just going to comment that we do have an upcoming meeting, the board for the Turtle Lot Trust. We're exploring, really Tom Angelo is a leader on this, but we're exploring some alternate options for financing. The advisors that we have done a good job, but we think we may want to align with, we're looking to align with some additional potential advisors in terms of the investments for that fund, and potentially as a group explore alternate options to maybe help grow the base over a period of years. It's a nice base today and it's providing nice projects for the school, but when we look for the next 100 years, it's not going to be, it's significant today. It's not going to be significant, down the road. So that's Melinda, unless you have something else, that's kind of some of the primary work I know that as a group we're going to work on next week.
Well, I do have Bill Birch here, so he could give you an update on the projects firsthand.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So the window project is, I would say, 90% complete. We had 4 windows that came in incorrectly, so they had to reorder. So those windows will be back. We expect them probably around the 1st of July. Beyond that, we've done some maintenance work on the front steps. We pulled out the lower set of steps and relayed them, rebedded them to get them back to level where they belonged. where we've gotten some quotes on some upcoming projects that the trust may take on in the coming year, or perhaps not. We're looking at audio and visual equipment for the Rascavage Auditorium. We are in the very beginning phases of looking at making the Rascavage Auditorium ADA compliant. That's a rather lengthy process because we have to have some structural engineering done to find a place to put a wheelchair lift. And we're also looking at having new doors built for the auditorium that would be more in line with what the original architecture was.
Thank you. Question? For Bill? Or for Rob Word? Or for Melinda? Any questions? All right, thank you. Thanks very much for that update. So we'll move on to new business, Thompson Public Schools boiler replacement. And I know that we've all got a chance to see a letter that was signed by the superintendent of schools on behalf of the Board of Education. Was it this morning that I forwarded around?
Yeah.
So I forwarded as soon as I got it. Hopefully everyone got a chance to see it. Okay, good. Okay. So obviously the letter speaks for itself, but if superintendent of schools or Bill Birch, if anybody wants to add any additional dimensions to this request, that's fine.
So I'm going to turn it over to Bill Birch so he can explain what's been happening with the boiler, so you have a better understanding.
So did the members of the board get the copy of the proposal that we got from Atlantic Power Services on the condition of the boilers? Okay.
Yes.
So at least we're all on the same page. So these boilers were installed as part of the 2007 building project. During that project, we put 2 packaged boiler houses on the roof, one for the early childhood center and one for the new part of the high school. So they've been in place since 2007, about, I'm going to say, probably the 3rd week of April. I got reports that one of them was leaking pretty substantially from underneath. So being late in the season, we shut it down and continued to run on one boiler. Atlantic Power Services came in and opened it up. We discovered that these are water tube boilers. We found a tube was leaking. So we pulled that tube with the intention that we would blank it off until we could get a new one. As we started to pull the tubes, every time we moved one, the one next to it or another one started to leak. So we reached the point that we had fully a third of the boiler tubes were out, and we still had not been able to stop the leaks. There were 36 tubes in the boiler. We had 12 out at that time. There was one still leaking. At that point, it is neither efficient to run, losing that much heat transfer space, and it also becomes dangerous because the possibility of heat transfer breaching the boiler plate, it grows with each space that you create. We reached out to the manufacturer, Precision Boiler Works out of Tennessee. We were promptly informed that they stopped building that particular boiler and that there were no parts available and that they did no longer support it. So I can tell you from my personal experience, the life of a boiler is maybe 40, 50 years, well taken care of. These boilers are 15 years old. So in my mind, that explains why they stopped making them. So our next step was to see if we could have these tubes recreated. We went to 2 manufacturers in New England and 1 down south, and none of them were able to bend these tubes. So the tube has a 4-inch radius bend on them, and the very closest that anyone could get was an 8-inch radius bend. So they all told us, no, we can't make the tubes. And we never got to the point of what it would cost to make them if they could. Again, when we reached out to Precision, they told us that the dies that they used to build the tubes had been destroyed. So I can only assume that the process to make these tubes was to take them hot and put them in a die press and press them in order to make the bends that tight. I can only speculate that that's why they fail, is because of that manufacturing process, that they're too tight. You add to that the heating and cooling cycle of the tubes and the velocity of the water flow from inside. And I can add that the last 2 years, these boilers have worked hard. So normally during cold weather, we put about 5% fresh air into the building. That's an ASHRAE standard, it always has been. With the pandemic, that changed. And for the last 2 years, we have been putting 30% fresh air into the building every day. So when it's 40, 50 degrees out, that's not such a big deal, but when it's zero, the boilers have all worked hard. So we looked at alternatives. The item that we've spec'd is slightly smaller in footprint, and in weight, it is about 600 pounds heavier wet weight than the existing boilers. So footprint and weight are both critical because these things are in a prefab boiler house on the roof. So we have to be very cognizant of the weight because the roof structure was specifically engineered to hold a certain amount. And we have to be very cognizant of the space because as it stands now, there is perhaps 24 to 30 inches between the side of the boiler and the side of the boiler house. So to put something bigger in there is completely out of the question. In the time we were working on the first boiler, the second boiler started to leak as well. Now, we have not opened that up yet because, again, due to the amount of fresh air we put into the building, I just shut it off last week. And I wasn't on site today, but I'm going to bet somebody was looking to have the heat on this morning. So they've just been shut off. Normal time, we shut the boilers down April 1st. And we're halfway through May and I'm still heating the building, as I said, except until last week. So we looked at these boilers, fully understand that almost half of the cost of this job is labor and logistics. So not only do we need a crane to bring the new boilers up on the roof, but as they get delivered to the roof, we have to spread the pieces out because the only place that's truly engineered to hold that kind of weight is right under the boiler. So these are cast iron sectional boilers. Each section is probably about as high and wide as a refrigerator, 8 inches thick, solid cast iron. They're built by Weil McLean, who's been in business for 100 years. We've got 2 Weil McLean boilers in the other part of the high school that have been running since 1986. So you have to spread it out on the roof, bring it in piece by piece, assemble it. Likewise, the existing boilers have to be taken apart piece by piece, cut into pieces that are small enough to physically carry from the middle of the roof to the edge, where you can then drop the pieces into a steel dumpster. So fully half of this project is labor and logistics. And I would be willing to bet that these cast iron boilers will wait until Dave and I are both retired.
That's not tomorrow, right?
It's not tomorrow, Larry, but when we put those up there, I said the only good news is that I'll be gone before they have to come off.
Question, Bill. Over the elementary, we have the same 2 boilers. What's going on there?
I'm looking for a piece of wood, but as you know, as of today, as of last week, they were running fine. I mean, we've had trouble with them. We've had, about 4 years ago, I had a breach on the back wall of the boiler where it actually burned through the boiler plate. I don't like to bash any manufacturer, but I have not been crazy about these since the day we fired them. But again, as Melinda stated earlier, we just opened bids on an HVAC assessment. And there's nothing to say that when that assessment's done, they're not gonna say, go a whole different direction. I've heard thoughts on geothermal wells, I've heard thoughts on electric boilers. The other elephant in the room is oil. And at this point, we have no choice.
What do we have, 6 boilers, separate units?
We have 6 boiler rooms, we have 13 boilers on site.
Right.
So I would be hesitant to move too quickly to start taking out the other ones when we don't know what's coming. But let me say that with this assessment, so we're planning on 9 months to a year for the assessment to be complete. And then that all hinges on the possibility, and it's not a promise, it's a possibility, that the federal government and the state government is going to start to fund some of these HVAC projects for school departments. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking to do a complete HVAC refurbish on that complex, it's going to be a $10 or $15 million project. So if somebody doesn't come up with money, then that's a nice thought.
My concern is because of the evaluation we'll be going through. The requirements for this boiler or any of the other boilers may change. Is funding going to be available? Is ARPA available? I know different towns are using ARPA funds for that. For example, the playground. I know in Woodstock, we're requesting money for Roseland Park through ARPA. Road construction, other factors. So I think the window is more open than I've been told. I'm just questioning whether or not I realize this is an emergency and needs to be addressed. But what is the best way to address it?
So the school district had to submit our federal grant money, and it was restricted to certain categories. And that had to go through a committee process. It had to be approved by the Department of Ed. And those monies have been all earmarked for projects and staffing over through next year. So there isn't a whole heck of a lot of money left over in that project to cover the cost of these boilers.
I mean, this is an emergency situation. It's not something that we could have anticipated. It would seem to be that ARPA would have conditions where under emergency situations, you can address that.
If I could just add one thing to your comment about it being an emergency situation. So the situation when I received this quote last week, Weil McLean was 12 weeks out on the cast iron, and the burners were 16 weeks out. So we're looking at if we ordered them last week, then we might have them the first week of September.
I understand that. I'm just questioning, what research has been done, any state funding available for this type of project?
Go ahead.
I was just thinking of something outside the box now. Does every repair at the school have to go through the school, or can it be a town? I mean, a town owns a school building. How does it work? Could ARPA funds from the town side be used for the school building? Or how does that work? Amy might be able to answer that also. I know it's kind of jumping into another category, but just like this account. My other question is kind of I understand the repair has to happen. I'm not in going in any direction with that, but agreement. But now, if this goes to the Board of Ed fiscal year 22 budget, does that also affect the minimum budget requirement? Does that get added to that year's budget?
I'll check on that. I don't think so, because this is an emergent, you're transferring money from the non-lapsing account into the BOE budget for an emergency purchase, but we can certainly address that with the state. I don't believe so.
I'm only asking that question because I didn't know how this account worked. I understand it has to be used for special education or repairs, but I was wondering if there was a way it could go through the town if it had to be, the MBR did apply.
That's a good thought, Rob, and we don't care how it gets paid. It just needs to be done.
The fact is, we do care.
Well, from our perspective, I understand that, but that was the purpose of creating, and I pushed hard for that non-lapsing account several years ago because we had hoped at some point along the way, we would actually have some unexpended funds at the end of the year. And last year, COVID opened that window a little bit, and we did have some, and so that's why we requested right away, once we had the audit done, to put those funds aside. I never dreamt that I would be here the next month asking for you to transfer the money out. It's been there was a bad week because every time Bill came in my office, he was like the Grim Reaper. He had something else that he was going to tell me. He was breaking down.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I guess there was a question when I stepped out. I had actually gone to get the ARPA guidelines again, just so that I could refresh my memory. Know that the town did, again, just like the school, earmark the monies to specific projects. And at this juncture, we don't know the full cost because we haven't done the engineering and design and the estimates for some of these projects. So do we have extra money? Potentially, but it cannot be used for a boiler. Specifically, it can be used for anything that directly is part of COVID. Let me see what it was termed, a response to the COVID public health crisis. And that's why we did our public safety facility, because it's going to address EMTs and ambulance service. It can be used for public health, negative economic impacts, premium pay. So if you wanted to pay those frontline workers a premium bonus, you could do that. Revenue loss due to the COVID-19 public health emergency only, and then investments in water, sewer, and broadband. Those were the criteria.
Listening to that, Amy, Bill, from what you have said this evening, one of the major causes of failure of these boilers is COVID regulations. Am I correct?
That would be my opinion. That would be my opinion, is that it did have an effect.
Therefore, it does apply to ARPA.
It sounds to me like we committed the funds to the project already.
We haven't committed all the funds, at least that's the last I was told when we were reviewed way back when, I don't remember, in the fall, I think it was.
We could,
You just said that, maybe I misunderstood.
everything's been allocated. There was about $300,000 that we hadn't allocated. I'm fearful, after sitting down with the building committee, in particular Brian Santos, who's in the construction industry, that our estimates for what the salt storage facility and the public safety facility would cost, we estimated it at 1.3 million. There's a chance it's going to go way over that. And that's my fear. And if you'd like to use some of the ARPA funds to cover this, great, but we might be coming back anyways and saying, okay, we got to go out to bonding now because we've run out of funds to finish these other projects. It's my fear, because we don't have enough data at this point, because we haven't had the engineer design and we don't have an engineer's estimate of the cost of these two buildings.
So basically what I'm hearing this evening is you're asking that we return to this current budget, $189,000, which we have set aside. Is that?
That's correct.
This $189,000, right, a month or so ago,
Yes.
we authorized the transfer of that money to be set aside in the fund for the coming year expenses. And we discussed why we were doing that. So I think the request tonight is to reverse that and make those funds, the $189,000 available in the current budget. Is that what, am I looking at?
I think we've already set it aside. We just need to authorize the spending.
You need to authorize the spending. That's
Doesn't
correct.
change- I don't think it changes the budget.
Okay,
Okay,
Bill, you
Question-
want to
question for
clarify
John,
that?
well, it's just,
Go ahead, Bill.
Maybe wrong, but.
Help us out there.
My understanding was that was excess funds from last fiscal year that we were putting into the unrestricted or the restricted account for this year. So that transfer has essentially been affected. The bookkeeping still has to be done. However, it just, what you're asking for this evening is the ability to spend it on this specific project, because my understanding is any spending that comes out of that account has to be approved by the board.
Correct.
So then is that an FY 22 expense if it's done? Whether it's done now or this summer or this fall or whenever, is it an FY 22?
It will not hit the FY 22 budget.
So then is.
It'll essentially come out of surplus, is my understanding.
Got it.
So we've essentially earmarked surplus
From FY 21?
from FY 21.
So basically, this is FY 21 money that's sitting in a fund
Correct,
and it's waiting to be spent.
right.
Okay.
I'm having trouble understanding that, Bill, what you have to help me.
Yeah.
It was my understanding initially that this fund was set up to set aside Board of Education funds that were unexpended into a special account. Now, from what, and I may have misunderstood you, but from what I'm hearing, you're saying those funds are in the general fund. I thought they were in a special fund for the Board of Education. And that fund would increase or decrease on a yearly basis, depending on the Board of Ed and their expenditures.
And there might be years that we didn't touch it at all. It was
That's
just there
correct,
as a
but it would
safety.
stay in that fund. It wouldn't be in the general fund.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
Or the surplus.
No, go ahead.
Aaron, all right.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I think that you're right. I don't think it was, we had to approve the movement of it,
Yes.
from that account. So I thought it was supposed to be in a separate account.
Right, I think where we're getting hung up, and I'll verify this, is that it's sort of like an earmarking of surplus from the prior year.
But I think it is a special fund. It's just.
It
like-
is,
It's just like a
correct.
transfer fund which we create.
That's a
that
good
holds
analogy.
Money from year to year. The money might sit there in that general fund, but
Correct.
it's specifically designated to a particular purpose. So I'm just trying to clarify that.
And Rob's question is a good one.
Yeah.
So, we'll double check on that, but I don't believe so.
That's my only big concern really, because it would raise next year's budget $189,000 automatically. Technically, if it did.
Right.
If it did go by the MBR, it would raise,
173.
So if I might,
yes, you're right.
if I might, you might be able to resolve that problem by running the purchase orders and invoices through the town office instead of the school.
That would be my suggestion.
Well, maybe we need a motion. I'm struggling with that because I'm not sure what the motion should state.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve
I
the
think
spending
Rob
of
wants to speak.
$173,129.08 from the non-lapsing account to replace the boiler.
That's Board of Education now.
Melinda wants to say something, Aaron. You can't see her. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I just want to make sure that there's a motion on the table. So Steve made a motion, and I know Rob Ward wanted to say something too, so I just want to for the sake of parliamentary procedure, there is a motion on the table, and that is to appropriate $173,129.08 from the Thompson Board of Education non-lapsing account for the purpose of the replacement of 2 boilers. Is it in the elementary school? At the school, and within the school building. So that's the motion. Is there a second to the motion? There's a second to that motion.
I'll second this discussion.
So Dave's got the second. All right, so then, Rob, words, I'll come back to you in a second. Melinda, you wanted to share something?
The request was to take the whole 189,000 because as Bill explained, we might run into some trouble when we're trying to take down the old boilers, and that expense might go up. If there's any money left over, we would come back to the board and transfer it back into the non-lapsing account.
I'd be happy to take back my motion.
Or we can
Just
just, we can just
modify my
adjust it. Rob, words,
Can you hear me okay, Aaron?
yeah,
I had a comment and a question. The first comment was that I read through the document and Bill explained the document. Very well done. We don't always see that level of detail, and it's very, very helpful. So I appreciate the amount of effort that went into that. The second was a question around Rob Mann's discussion point. If we spend this year, it was approved in the FY21 budget. So not this year, but last year. So I don't know for sure. I just questioning, does it really get added on to this year? Or does it stay as part of the year that it was approved in? Therefore, deeming Rob Mann's concern null if that's the case. It's a question.
go ahead.
Rob, the way I guess I would explain it is if you think about it coming out of retained earnings in a typical company, it's not, it wouldn't hit the 2022 budget. It's actually sort of an earmarking of prior year surplus because the Board of Ed had funds that were available in a prior year that flowed to surplus that have been essentially earmarked to be able to be tapped for specific instances that the Board of Finance approves. That's my understanding right now. Once again, I'll confirm that.
So in that case, Bill, if it's analogous to retained earnings, then it's sitting on a balance sheet of sorts, and it would have been earmarked to the year that it was approved, which would be 2021. Is that what you're thinking?
I guess what I'm saying is it wouldn't, when we speak of the budget, it sort of wouldn't, the budget is sort of analogous to the P&L for any given year. So it wouldn't hit the P&L for 2022. It would come off the balance sheet, correct?
Okay, well, I think we should run that to ground.
Yeah, we definitely will. I definitely will, but that's my understanding as of right now.
Okay.
I believe that's the entire purpose of that account. It's almost sort of like a carryover PO.
Okay, that's clear.
We've had a number of, I think, very good questions. Sometimes require sort of a technical, some research, but I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to get the work done in time to heat the schools next year.
Will you adjust your numbers? Actually, I accept the adjustment of the numbers.
So 189,000.
In my second.
So then that means the motion and the second have been adjusted so that the motion now by Steve is to appropriate $189,000 from the Board of Education non-lapsing account for the purpose of the replacement of 2 boilers at the school building. That's motion is made by Steve and it's been seconded by Dave. And so I know that there's some discussion about whether or not doing this contributes to has an MBR consequence, which I don't think it does because this is FY21 money.
It was
And
surplus
so-
funds.
Right, right. If this would have had any impact on the MBR, it would have been the MBR coming out of FY21 going into 22, I would think, because it's FY21 dollars. I guess we can just make sure on that. I don't know if there's anything, if there's any language we should put into the motion to that effect. I don't want to complicate this. I don't want to complicate this.
I leave the
This is true.
motion as is. and allow us to go forward, and if we need to adjust our motion in the future or create a secondary motion to deal with a problem that Bill may discover, we'll do that then, but I think we need to let Bill and Melinda know it's okay tomorrow morning to go ahead and do this.
I agree. I guess the one caveat that I would add is if we approve this motion, we approve it knowing that the horse is out of that barn now. It's meaning, I don't know if some subsequent motion can necessarily fix any MBR consequence, which I don't believe there is an MBR
I don't
consequence.
believe there is.
But I just think that if we approve this knowing that it's not like we can come back 2 or 3 weeks later and say, oh, wait, hold on a second, we want to take that back because that's it. Now it's been approved and they've justifiably gone ahead and encumbered the money as allowed.
What I'm saying
Yeah.
is there's nothing stopping the Board of Finance to dipping into surplus funds if in fact these funds are not available, which I don't believe at all. It can come back to us and we can resolve, but what I think is needed is permission from the Board of Finance to move forward. And the only way we can move forward is to make and accept this motion on the table. If Bill Stiglitz finds out differently, he will notify us, and if it's necessary to have a special meeting, so be it. But we want heat in the school in the fall.
Sure. And Steve, I see you're up and then Rob Words, I'll come right to you in a moment. Go ahead,
The
Steve.
only comment was regardless of whether it hits the MBR or not, we need to do it.
No, I understand that.
Regardless.
I understand that.
Maybe we don't like that, but it still needs to be done.
Go ahead, Rob Words.
My point was going to be, thinking about this a little further, even if it hit this year, we're still not going to trigger the MBR because next year's number is already above this year's number plus 189. So I think it's been a good discussion, but I think no matter which way it falls, it's not going to swing back around.
Thanks, Rob.
And so again, not to complicate this, but I'm thinking, and we're dealing with what we're dealing with 3 different fiscal years here, right? 21, 22, 23. And so obviously, I think the question was rooted in a concern for what impact could this potentially have when we sit down to do FY24, if any impact at all. And again, I know we're talking about a few different fiscal years here, but it was I think it was rooted in a concern about what happens going forward. Would we have to necessarily increase by a certain amount because of what we did here? What, pull a string here and then something moves over there. And I'm fine with approving a request to replace the boilers. Just like others are saying around this table, we got to replace these boilers. We don't have the luxury to sort of overthink this. But my thing is, if we approve this knowing that if tomorrow morning they have the authority to go ahead and order the boilers, they're going to probably have to put some money down and it may not be refundable. And that's it. The toothpaste is out of the tube. So regardless of whether or not there is an MBR consequence, which I don't believe there is, if there is one, I just feel like we approve this knowing that, right, but I'm just saying we approve this knowing that if there is an MBR consequence, then so be it. I feel like, because if we come back like a week or 2 later and say, oh, wait, we changed our mind, the boilers are already, they're encumbered at the factory. They're going to be on their way at some point.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes.
I think we all agree with that. We just, I wanted to know the details. That's basically it. At no point did I want to slow down replacing the boilers at school. I just wanted to understand more.
I think with regard to the state spending requirement, these funds became available at the end of 2021. They were not expended. Therefore, if there was a question by the state, we certainly would have been notified. After the EDO1 report, it would show up and Melinda would have been notified that she was under budget. So I don't see that as being a problem at all. That money has been set aside in a special account, which the state has authorized local board of education.
Any other discussion on this motion? Again, this is a motion to appropriate $189,000 out of the Board of Education non-lapsing account for the purpose of replacing 2 boilers in the school building. And I think it's a good idea if someone has a thought about MBR to go ahead and bring it up now so we can discuss it. And because you just want to make sure, it just reminds me of the saying my dad always had when I was growing up, is it's just a lot easier to do something right the first time than have to go around and try and do it right the second time. Because if you have to go around and do it right the second time, it means you have to undo what you already did and then try to make it as good as it would have done if you just did it right the first time. So why not just talk it over and make sure that what we're doing is what we really wanted? Any thoughts?
I think I'm good. I think we already did discuss it. I think that everybody, like you said, everybody believes it's a 2021. And if it's expended, if it's considered an expense in 2021, we're already over that for this budget that we just approved a few days ago. And we good.
Anything else before we vote? Okay, we'll go around the table. Rob Mann, how do you vote?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Rob Worich?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. This one carries 6-0. Okay. We can move on to federal and state grants. And I know this was an item that Rob Mann was on his mind. He asked if we could, it's not necessarily an item that we would necessarily take any action on this evening. It's more just to introduce a point of discussion that potentially could turn into action in the future or not. But it's just something that was on Rob Mann's mind and wanted to put it on the agenda.
So basically, I attended the town meeting we had for the budget. And one of the necessary legalities in that was that the only persons in the budget, I mean, in the legality, the legislature of the town is considered the Board of Selectmen. And they're the persons that apply for grants, and they're the persons that accept grants. And basically, the language says that those are the people that do it. I know many years ago, I'll pass this around even to everybody. Many years ago, there was a grant worksheet that people were handed, so you knew what the fiscal future brought. And there's a few of them. I only had a couple, but anyway, it showed what the future. Yes, it showed what the fiscal future was of the town. It's actually, Amy, it's just that grant worksheet that was handed out to a resident, showing like the grants that the town has received, basically. So it's most grants, as we all know, state and federal, some require, there's always strings attached and things that go along with that. Not all, obviously we know ARPA. I don't think ARPA expects you to match funds or do anything like that. I don't believe, but there's other grants that do. And I just wanted to make sure that the town going forward, we knew that some of these things could possibly have expenses that we don't have allocated or we're not prepared to pay for. And that's basically why I asked to have this discussion. It's not pinpointing on anybody. It's I spoke to a selectman from another town. In that town, the Board of Selectmen actually make a vote at selectmen meetings to apply for grants and to approve grants or to accept them. So I just it was kind of a procedural thing that I'd like to see more of in the future. It's not it's just we want to know where we are going forward. Basically, that's all it comes down to.
And Rob, when you say create expenses, I just want to clarify, you mean the situation where the town gets a grant and it's to construct something, right, or to create something. And as a result of that construction or that creation, then there's a maintenance expense, right? There's an operating expense. Is that what you mean when you say future expense?
There's a number of ways it happens. Some grants, they'll give you the money to do a project, but then you got to pay for the engineering. Other projects require you have 25% matching funds or 50% matching funds. I just want to make sure that we are prepared as a town when these things happen, that we have that. We're planning ahead to have those funds available or a plan of where they come from. I mean, ARPA funds possibly can match some grant funds too to take care of that expense,
Unfortunately, ARPA is very different. It operates very different. Most grants, as you have mentioned, may or may not have conditions. If the conditions are requiring participation by the community in terms of a percent of fee or architectural drawings or what have you, there's also in kind that can make up the dollar figure. And this has been used several times over the years in this town.
So it's in kind of donation.
Well, what happens is the DPW in kind carries out certain projects to meet the dollar or percent number. So there are a number of ways, but if the town wishes to meet that through funding, it has to pass through us.
Okay. I think that's even on that too. The in-kind, I think, is even mentioned on that, if I'm correct. Yeah, I know it's okay. It's just a grant worksheet. It shows you, what we're expected to do, or I think it even says in there, town does the work. Yeah, it's a grant worksheet. Many years ago, they had similar grant worksheets. Somebody had, I think the Board of Selectmen might have been the ones, were they the ones that requested this?
I don't
or-
know. I haven't seen it, so.
No, I don't think that it was the board. I think it was a citizen.
Okay.
That's right.
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
So then, Rob, you can tell me if I'm either following you correctly or if I'm off base. The sort of, the spirit of creating this discussion is rooted in the fact that Board of Selectmen and the town planner have the authority to go out and seek grants, right? And they can go out and get them, and then they can get approval for them. But as a result of going out and seeking and being awarded those grants, it can have financial consequences that come across this table, either in the near term because of matching funds or whatever, or in the longer term because of operating expenses associated with various projects and things that those grants bring into town. And just the fact that the Board of Finance, we don't have jurisdiction over seeking grants. We don't have jurisdiction over being awarded grants, but we do have to make choices, right? When it comes to budget time, we have to sit around this table, we have to make choices. And so the extent to which certain financial expenditures, demands, whatever you want to call them, are
Obligations.
introduced, right? It becomes something that is not we don't have jurisdiction, but then all of a sudden now we do, and now we're the ones who have to make those decisions. And I just want to make sure if I follow you, that's where your thoughts are rooted in terms of bringing up this conversation.
That's absolutely where I was going. I'm more concerned with if we have obligations at some time in the future, that the earlier we know about them, the better. That's basically in a nutshell what it comes down to. These the grant worksheets that I handed out can inform us and the selectmen both of what we have to possibly look at in the future. I think it's a good idea that we all know. And the same with the ARPA. ARPA, I believe they have to make quarterly reports on ARPA. It would be a good idea for us to know that also, because I mean, no ARPA funds, we know we're doing the ambulance facility, we know we're doing other things, but in those same things in the future are going to come across this table with a full budget line items. I mean, there's going to be, obviously, we know that the ambulance facility is going to need, they're going to have a water bill, they're going to have a sewer bill, they're going to have electricity, they're going to have another boiler, they're going to have AC. When you're in an ambulance facility, they basically live there on the clock. So those are just examples that the more we know, the better. And how far down the line we are. That's basically what the conversation is looking for. That's why I wanted us to have a discussion about it. It's not only state grants, it's federal grants, it's anything really. Because, I'd hate to be in a situation where we see some things happen, which are very positive for our town without a doubt, but we're just not prepared to fund them.
Rob, you also mentioned Board of Selectmen has to make the application.
Absolutely.
And not that, if I understood you right, the town planner only, I guess, delegated, or maybe you can help me out.
I would think as far as a legislative way of doing it, since we had that we have that vote at the town meeting, it only gives them the authority. They're the only ones that have the authority to actually apply for grants. It's the Board of Selectmen, not one person, the board. So, I don't know the legality of the Board of Selectmen might be able to make a vote and give their power to give the power to somebody else. But that's just how I saw it. At that town meeting, I actually asked the question. I said, I asked the question is, so you're saying the only, I asked, that was the question I asked, the only question I asked. And it was, yes, the Board of Selectmen, so.
Anything else on this item? Any other thoughts, discussion points? Go ahead, Rob.
I had a quick comment. It's a great topic to bring up, Rob, man. I think it's good for the awareness. It's not too dissimilar to earlier in the budget cycle when we had people that left positions and we rehired at higher salaries, right? We're making a commitment at that point. Just like when we build a building, we're making a commitment to maintain that building. But I think in the end, it comes down to choices. So when the selectmen decide, I'm going to put an ambulance building up, we're going to have the maintenance. We can't not maintain the building, but we have a choice to make. We either need to raise more funds to do that because it's an added cost, or we need to stop doing something else. So that's the choice. And I do know, like you're saying, ultimately it comes to our table here. But prior to that, the selectmen have made that decision. They need to make another decision as they build their budget to say, where do I find this now, right? So it's, I think the awareness is good, but the authority is not with us until the next budget cycle flows through.
Anything else? Anything? All right, Rob, man, thank you for bringing that up. We'll move on to future meetings format. And Dottie, if you're there, or if Amy, if you're aware, what is it? What was the latest extension that we got for?
Oh, for the hybrid
For
meetings?
hybrid format?
You're good at least until next year at this point. They're just trying to draft permanent legislation regarding hybrid meetings and
Okay.
virtual meetings, but we're good to go.
Okay.
There's no, you can do either fully virtual, or you could do hybrid, or you could do strictly in person. The only difference is if you're strictly virtual, you need a 48-hour notice.
Oh, so hybrid doesn't require 48?
No, 24-hour
Oh,
notice.
interesting.
So I think, unless Dottie wants to correct me, but that's the way I understood it.
I'll just continue to operate based on what she tells me what to do. She gives me deadlines and then I fulfill them. I don't like these darn microphones any more than anybody else does, but
I don't see why we can have field mics instead of spot mics. Doesn't make any sense.
what? You mean, what would be the difference between a field
A
mic?
field mic was what we had prior. to
Oh,
the
you
spot
mean
mic.
like the teleconference speaker in the
That's a
middle
field
of
mic.
it?
It
Okay.
takes everything. A spot mic only
Yeah.
takes what you talk into it.
Fair enough. And I'm, if this ends up being replaced by something else, that's fine. I just feel like, I know every time we have one of these meetings, there are people from home who log in. We don't have a lot of people right now, but that's because, I'm assuming that's because we just passed the budget, right? But I know at our last budget workshop, when we finally reached the point where we recommended the budget to go out, we had a pretty healthy participation on the Zoom, and I saw some names that I haven't seen for a couple of years. So I feel like having this Zoom ability is a way to, how should we say, maximize the town participation, democracy, whatever you want to call it. Especially, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people on that Zoom at that last meeting that I'm referencing who may not be as able, maybe not be as able to get out of the house and drive down to a meeting and get out of their car and go into a room as they used to be. And it actually is convenient for them to be able to log in that way. So I'm willing to keep, fumbling with these speakers if you guys are. I guess that's where I'm going. Go ahead.
I know I'm in support of it. When I had COVID, I was home.
Yeah.
It made it so I could still attend a meeting. I didn't have to miss it. I know it hasn't happened recently, but we have had meetings canceled because we couldn't have a quorum. As I think every board probably has at one point in time. It's the same at home. Somebody at home doesn't feel well. I would much rather have them stay home and be on a microphone here than have them sitting out there, possibly getting us sick. Because it's, people are getting sick still. It's not like it's all over now. People aren't wearing masks and we're not as, maybe not as careful as we were before. We feel more comfortable every day, I think. And I see it, I'm in the public every day and there's still people getting sick every day.
Go ahead, Rob.
Aaron, if I could, I just want to add, I by far much rather and prefer to be in person. I'm the one that's probably on Zoom the most, so it's a counter to what I'm saying, but I think the best meetings happen when we're across the table and you can kind of see the inflection, et cetera. But I will say that I also take this responsibility seriously. I try not to miss any meetings. I try to participate and fulfill the duty that I was elected to fulfill. So this allows me personally, I'm working in Virginia. My headquarters are here. I'm down here a lot. If we can tolerate me being away on occasion, I'll try to be in person as much as I can. But if the alternative is I can't participate, that would be, I think, worse than fumbling through what we're doing. So I appreciate everyone's, personally, I appreciate the patience with me being probably the biggest user of Zoom. So thank you.
I think it's safe to say we're all happy to accommodate you any way that we can. While we're on the topic of future meetings format, I did want to discuss future meetings in general, meaning usually, traditionally, if we can get the budget done before the end of that respective fiscal year finishes, so that we don't have to have meetings in the summer, we traditionally take a month off in the summer, either July or August. I know in the past it's been August, but I figured I would at least let Bill and Amy decide, and maybe even the superintendent decide. Is there because I think this is how we did it last year, right? We said, is there a month, either July or August, that you would prefer that we meet? Is there a month that you're okay with us taking off? We'd like to take off one of those months. And we want to make sure that the month that we take off is one where there's not pressing business. There's not something that you're going to need to accomplish. We just want to make sure that we consider what your needs might be.
JICA's?
Yes.
We're off August.
Okay. We've got one bid for August. Go ahead, Amy.
I'd be here for both months, so I don't care.
Okay. Bill, do you know if you have a preference?
Excuse me. With the recent switch, we really weren't intending to have any time off in the near future, but historically, we've done it in August, so that actually lines up pretty well.
So when is so in July, I am on vacation, but there's not. I don't predict.
She told you it's July?
Boilers fail.
Oh, okay.
There will be any other issues.
Comes first.
Usually, the information I give you is that school has started up, and then I give you the report after school open. So September is fine.
I'm good in August.
August. Rob Orich?
Yeah, I'm fine with August too, but I do recall us also requesting that we get the financial update, even though we don't meet, so we can all read it from Bill.
Will do.
That would be great. Thanks, Bill. So it sounds like August is the one that everybody seems to be okay with us not meeting. And I don't think we need to take a vote on this. We just won't, as the chair, I just won't bother to post an agenda for the month of August. And
Well, I
Dottie,
think we should announce it.
Should be canceled.
okay, fair enough.
It should be canceled.
Well, then, does meeting cancellation require a vote or?
It required a vote to establish it.
Okay, good point. We did require a vote to establish that meeting in the first place at the beginning of the year.
The August meeting, and I had the date a minute ago, and I misplaced it. Be canceled pending any significant emergency.
Right, man, I'll second it.
Well, can we just cancel it flat out? And then if there's an impending emergency, then we can always call a special meeting. So would you be okay with it saying that
Yes.
the
I
regular
make a
meeting in
motion.
August?
To cancel the regular August meeting of August 18th.
Great. So the motion is to cancel the previously scheduled Board of Finance regular meeting in August, which so happens to be August 18th this particular year. That's the motion by Dave, and Rob Mann has the
Rob, man, I got
second.
the second.
Any discussion on that? Any discussion? All right, all in favor of canceling the regular August meeting, signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? This one carries 6-0.
Move we adjourn.
Oh, any Board of Finance member comments? That's the last item on the agenda. No worries, any Board of Finance member comments? I know
Not
that,
I'm anxious.
I was gonna say, I know that means no over here. No comments. Any comments, any Board of Finance member comments? Go ahead.
Move we adjourn.
So Dave's comment is that he moves that we adjourn. Is there a second to that? Steve's got the second. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? Motion carries 6-0. Meeting is adjourned. It's 8:27 PM. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Rob Word, safe travels. We'll see you when you're back.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Rob.